Okay. So then let's start the session. Good evening, friends, and thank you all for joining today. We know that today is the last session of the cohort, and I welcome you all to today's session. So, you know that one of the major components of citywide inclusive sanitation is, to build leadership in sanitation service delivery. But you also know that, it's when we are talking about the leadership, we are not just talking about only the bureaucracy, but we are also talking about the political leadership and their political will and political behavior, their political skill in terms of addressing the issue of sanitation service delivery. So we have seen throughout the history, some of the politicians have taken, they are very much committed towards the sanitation service, and they have created some new benchmarks. But mostly sanitation is a backburner to most of the politicians. So there is always a discussion and discourse that, the political will should be generated and it is important and all of those kinds of things. So today we have Dr. Thomas Isaac. He is a comrade. He has also been a legislator for the last 2 decades, and he was finance minister for 2 terms from the government of Kerala. So we have Dr. Thomas Isaac here to discuss about political will in citywide inclusive sanitation. Welcome, Dr. Thomas Isaac.
Yes.
Thank you. So just to give a brief introduction about who Dr. Thomas Isaac is, I am sure you might have heard his name, but a little bit in detail. So Dr. Thomas Isaac served as a legislator for 2 decades, I said, from 2001 to almost 2020. He has a doctorate in economics from Jawaharlal Nehru University, and because of the same reason, he has also been our Kerala State's finance minister for 2 terms. And he started his political career not in 2001. He started his political career somewhere around in 1971 as a student politician under the banner of Students' Federation of India. Since then, he has been very closely aligned with many activities that includes the Kerala Shastra Sahitya Parishad, also other activities. Before becoming the legislature, just before, from 1996 to 2001, he was a member of Kerala State Planning Board, and that's when he came up with this idea of people's planning, and then has been a major part of implementation of that people's plan. When we say people's plan, it is a decentralization of powers to the urban local bodies. He had played a major role in that, in execution of that in Kerala. And so coming to his engagement with sanitation and solid waste management, he is from the constituency named Alappuzha constituency, Mararikulam and Alappuzha constituency. So Alappuzha is known as Venice of the East. But when he took charge as a legislator, Alappuzha was one of the dirtiest places with garbage, filth and garbage across the streets and canals. Then both liquid and solid waste management had its own problems. People were actually in agitation against the open dumping of waste. And so that's when Dr. Thomas Isaac decided that, this cannot happen in my constituency. And so he worked along with the urban local body as well as the Kerala Agricultural University to come up with a strategic action plan to address the issues of sanitation as well as solid waste management. And over a period of time, this model has been appreciated by the government of India as well as the United Nations. And then this was also being appreciated and adopted into the Kerala state sanitation policy, sanitation and solid waste management policy. So in some sense, you can see you are going to hear a person who has completely understood what political will and he has tried to execute it. He will have a lot of experiences to share with us. So I once again welcome Dr. Thomas Isaac to the session. Dr. Isaac, just to give a brief about the participants, we have participants across South Asia in this session. And they have learned quite a bit about the technological, managerial, and all other aspects of citywide inclusive sanitation. So now, in order to implement any of these activities, one of the primary aspects that is required is political will. And we would, we would like you to give some tips and tools to our participants in regarding how to generate the political will, or how to even get that buy-in, political buy-in. So one of those things, if you could enlighten us about that, and also maybe advise our practitioners on how to convince the politicians. So bureaucracy, sometimes they are very much interested in implementing the activities, but politicians might not be in favor of it or something like that. So how can we even convince the politicians to take the sanitation service delivery as one of the primary goals and activities? So over to you, Dr. Thomas, I think.
Yes, Pratibha. How long can it take?
Yeah, so you can maybe discuss around 40 minutes, and then after that, Professor Chari and myself will ask you a few questions, and then we'll open the floor to discussions.
Yeah, that's perfect. I'm sorry for the delay, slightly.
That's fine.
I had to extricate myself from a meeting. I forgot about this scheduled meeting here. Primarily, I shall speak from my personal experience in LAP. For the last 300 decades, I have been personally involved in democratic decentralization, empowering local governments. And this is, in fact, the most important governance change that has occurred in Kerala in the last 3 decades. And sanitation happens to be the most important mandatory function of local governments. And as Pratibha told, the town of Alleppey was a very beautiful town once. It was known as the Venice of the East because of the numerous canals there. It was a port town. Then the port declined, industries migrated away from the town and became a ghost town. Therefore, canals fell into disuse, and therefore they became dumping places of all the waste. And I think it is important, how is the political will generated to address this problem, crisis. I think crisis gives a very important opportunity also, a window of opportunity. See, earlier what used to happen is that all the solid waste from the city is collected by sanitation workers and taken to a dumping ground, which is in the outside village. Now, in say end of mid 2000, what happened was the people in the village said, not in our backyard. They just physically blocked the trucks which were coming to the dumping yard. So it was a crisis moment for the city. For a year, the city people, they dug holes in the maidans or near the roads and were burying all the waste, covering it up. But soon, such open spaces became scarce, were exhausted, and therefore waste began to be dumped on the road. So that was the crisis. Something had to be done. There was no option. So that's when the idea came. Well, your dumping yard is no more option. You cannot set up any big plant within the city. Therefore, the solution can be only that every citizen be responsible for the waste they generate, and have it processed in their own house. This town of Anati is also very famous in the history of sanitation movement in Kerala. That was here the hometown of Tagari Shivashankara Pillai, who was a Jnanapith awardee. He in 1951 wrote a novel. The title is Scavenger's Son. In all over the municipalities in Kerala, manual scavenging was the norm. And his novel portrayed the feelings of scavengers towards the city rich and city people, their life, and how they got organized and so on. And this novel had a tremendous impact in Kerala. And within a decade of the publication novel, manual scavenging disappeared. Now in Malayalam, in the morning ablutions are called going outside. Vilikku pova. That means you go outside. It is something that has to be undertaken very far away from the house. But over time you find the latrine, toilets coming near the house, behind the house, now finally inside the house. So people have, there's a mindset change, you see, that now they are not, they are accustomed to have the toilet and the processing of human anesthesia within the house. So the simple question raised is, if you don't mind your anesthesia being processed in your house, in your living room, why not have a kitchen bin? Why not have a small biogas plant and process your organic waste? And this was the way the issue was placed and raised. So the whole campaign was focused upon each household processing its own organic waste. So the crisis forced everybody, the city politicians, including me, the MLA, that a solution had to be found. There was no. So the approach was that everybody should be responsible for their waste. So organic waste was to be processed in the house, and then non-organic waste was to be collected from the house and transported elsewhere. So second is the choice of technology. That's also very important. I don't think you have got to invent any technology, but there are a large number of options available and appropriate selection has to be made. Now, our innovation in LFP were two. One was the community aerobic bin. Say, suppose somebody doesn't want, for whatever reason, process their organic waste in the house. Okay, there must be an option for them. A community composting yard where they can bring, they have got to bring. Nobody is going to go and collect the organic waste from the house. They had to bring the and just be to be processed there. It's a very simple thing. A box-like structure with a lot of aeration holes, so that a lot of aeration takes place, and the waste is dumped inside. City sweeping of the leaves, dry leaves, are put layered there, and then you put the inoculum from cow dung, okay, which was the agriculture university came in. And this was also innovated by Agriculture University for the research, the veterinary university. So we adopted it. So this technology. Second was, how do you clean the canals? Choice of technology is very difficult there. Simple thing was that, okay, your black water, grey water, you treat them centrally. But in an unplanned town, this is very, very difficult to have such network of pipes and so on. Therefore, we decided our approach is going to be more decentralized. So we have a decentralized anaerobic DWAT system. Okay. We have experimented in 2-3 places, 2-3 types of things, which really means that all the black water is brought into a septic tank like structure, but with many more cells than the normal septic tank. So an anaerobic process of in this black water being treated, and after it comes out to the other end, it is left through a constructed wetland, so that finally when it goes into the canal, it is very clean. So choice of technology is very important. We just avoided fancy big things, etc., which creates a lot of opposition from people in the neighborhood, and it's not an option at all for a densely populated place. Therefore, we took the technologies which can be handled by people themselves. Now, the third question, okay, whatever we have the technologies, the mindset of the sanitation workers would have to change. Attitude of the people to sanitation workers have to change. See, we live in a caste society. Even everyone, though we may not have exhibitions of casteism as in the past, in our mind, caste self persists. And the worst thing about the caste is they have graded, hierarchically graded the jobs. More manual the work becomes lowly work, and the worst is sanitation. So there is an attitudinal way that sanitation workers are looked on by the population. In fact, Thagiri's novel I referred to was addressing this issue, attitude of the people, by portraying what the scavengers were thinking about this relatively better sections of the population. So, what was to be the change in the style of functioning of sanitation workers? They should cease to be collectors of waste. They should become technicians of waste. So maybe not big science is involved, but there is composting, various types of composting. There is aerobic treatment, non-aerobic treatment, classes of help for sanitation workers so that they understand the science. Somebody, educated, etc., brings the waste to the aerobic compost center, then they should be able to explain to him what's happening, what is inoculum, what is inoculum doing, what is the medium through which inoculation works, and so on. They should know something which those customers of his doesn't know. And similarly for biogas, explain the science. That gives them a sense of confidence and to talk with the people, and also the trust. That's very important. You see, the collectors of waste, the women who collect non-organic waste, plastics, and so on. We insist that they be well dressed. Okay, not just one set. They should be clean and so on, so the self-respected. And the leadership, including me, would have to show the respect. How do you show the respect? I may be the minister, but traveling through Alleppey, I find a sanitation worker on the street, in the pavement, doing something. I will stop my car, greet him, talk to him as an equal, then to see. I don't have the chance and time to speak with everybody, interact with everybody. But in the whole of the campaign, this was my daily routine. So the biggest achievement was that the workers began to take a pride. Not only workers, the supervisors and so on, they began to take a pride in the work they were doing. You see. It was a treat to go to a community center, composting center, and then the worker explaining the science of what was being done to the visitors and so on. See. So this is very, very important, development of this self-respect. Third is awareness of the people. There is no the technology, the awareness, that consciousness, something that Tagiri's book did. It changed the attitude. So you have to change the attitude. And how do you communicate that? That's the thing. How do you communicate? Now, that's very difficult because talking to adults, etc., they don't listen. See, you try that, you'll find that. You go and preach to them, they will look up. Of course, if I go, the MLA, the minister, then they would respectfully sit. But an ordinary activist or somebody, or even a municipal employee goes there to explain to them, they won't listen here. Now you're trying to teach me the simple things of life. Therefore, what we found was the children, they are the best communicators, you see. Children, see, when they go home and they begins to speak about climate change, how shouldn't litter, how it is harming health, this, that, I'm certain the parents will be amused. Listen, what are these big things the kid is saying? So how do you get the children to start this communication? Okay, this becomes part of the teachers who tell about sanitation in the class. And we also had a game. Children could bring plastic from the house separated into different categories. And they would be given coupons for 10 rupees per kilo of plastic. The coupons they can exchange for books from the bookstore, book festival that will be held in the school. Now, there were people who were very angry that we are trying to make the children rack pickers and so on. Of course, in fact, very respectful people joined the fight. But we answered, see, they are not supposed to bring any plastic outside from the house, only the household. And why do you do that? Okay, when they collect the plastic from the house, separate them, then the parents will be amused. It will be the starting of a conversation in the house. In fact, that's the beginning of wisdom in the house. So you have to have this very innovative ways of communication using folk art. Many attempts were made. We have very powerful women neighborhood group network in Kerala, which is not just microfinance, it's a community organization. Every family is represented by a woman, and they do microfinance, but it's neighborhood group. That's everybody in the neighborhood who has respective religion, caste, or political affiliation, a right to be there. And therefore, this network, they meet every week, as in case of all self-help groups. And this was a very important space that we utilized to send the message, talk to them, and so on. So you need to have a very innovative communication system to reach out to people. And the change in the mindset is reflected by the fact that the littering began to decline. More and more houses took to composting, or at least they brought it to the community composting center. Next point is there must be punishment. Okay, we don't start with punishment, but after some time we enforce it. Anybody who litters, severe punishment. And this is, but this punishment is not something just imposed from above. There is a town in Kerala, and that is there in Wayanad, northernmost part of the Kerala, where the community in the town met through the wards, discuss. All political parties participated, and that's the beauty of it. All political parties, and then drawn up a list of fines. Fines for what? You eat a banana, throw it into the street, you're fine. 200 rupees. If you take a sweet, then litter it, the covering, you're fine, 100 rupees. So also, and if every shop, every day before they close, we'll have to sweep the, all the waste from the shop and keep it in front of the shop. And morning 4 o'clock, everything is removed. And during the day, no littering. The town is completely clean. And duty is that all political parties agree to this fine system. And this is also a beautiful town because there are rails all along the footpath. And you know what they have done? They have hung flowering plants on the, so that you go in the morning, city is clean, the streets are lined with flower pots, and total community involvement, that workers take pride. You have got taxi drivers, they take pride in the work area, it is very clean. You have headboard workers unit in some place. In fact, the headboard workers started this. They planted a flower tree, and what happened was that it flowered and became very beautiful. In the last rains, it collapsed. That is a state level news that this plant had collapsed. See, I think there is no alternative to talk. Keep on talking here. And it brings about a kind of consensus. See, Pratibha was very right when he said difficult to create a political will. Political will not only in the people who are now governing the city, but also among with those in the opposition. So how is it done? It is done, I think one favorable factor is Kerala is a state where decentralization has been much more effective than the other states, because the decentralization was not brought about as a kind of administrative reform from above, but as a mass movement from below. The entire population, it took us 5 years, the entire population was taught how to plan from below. So every local government in the last 25 years have been drawing up local plans, which I think is much more effective than even the state level plan, for a simple reason. State always draws up schemes, while all the local governments will draw projects which are concrete, separate, independent. It's not a patronized thing. So this has been a very, very important campaign. So, and we have a system, a design, where there's proportional representation in the standing committees. So much so, everybody is in the governance. There is no opposition leader. Because there is no opposition, they are also part of the governance. If you are got a few members, councillors, definitely you can win one standing committee. So everybody has a stake in the standing committee. Therefore, I'm not saying that there is no contestation and there's no, sectarianism and so on, but the possibility of having a consensus is much higher. So this story of Alleppey got a lot of attention all around the state because we were also very keen to publicize what we are doing, because that's one way of conscientizing people. I have a book in Malayalam, it is get translated, but it's not, that's right. Pratibha has the copy. It's written in a very casual, informal language, discussion and so on. How we went about it. It's not a theory of sanitation, but how we learn from our mistakes and how we proceeded further and further. So it got a lot of attention. So then I'm also party leader, CPM leader. 2000, I think 14. I think it will be the first time anywhere in India a political party makes sanitation its program. Okay. CPIM in Kerala decided that they will not confine themselves to formal political work, but would also enter into, as part of the political work itself, 3-4 arenas. One sector is palliative. Today, CPM in Kerala has the largest number of palliative network. There are religious groups, everybody involved. Say almost all of Kerala is covered with palliative network. So palliative. Second was agriculture, vegetable cultivation. You know, Kerala people are moving away from agriculture. So in my constituency was a village. You know, there's a sandy soil. We don't cultivate. We are all working in coir industry. And agriculture was ceased. You know, in 2011 census, the agricultural participation in this village is less than 10% or 5% or something, which will be the lowest in the country. So, but this village regenerated the agriculture through a campaign, okay, changing the attitude also. Now it's become a sustainable part. So agriculture, particularly this, and sanitation. So sanitation, we had a political seminar. Party cadres from all over Kerala came to Alleppey. They saw this, how it can be done, and so on and so forth. I'm not saying Alleppey has replicated everywhere or Alleppey is the best place. All that I'm saying is political leadership responded to this, that Kerala has to be clean, and it is important politically to intervene to clean it up. That's one. Second, we have even now a lot of training programs with respect to local governments, and local government training takes place mostly in towns and places where it has been successful. So people, the cadres from other municipalities and everybody comes there. So this is how politically the message is spreading. That, in fact, other political parties also are forced to content, respond. And if there is a kind of contestation that comes in as to who is performing better, then there is nothing like that. That's the aim, not that it has been achieved. But interestingly, CPM was there in power when this whole program started in Alleppey. Then Congress came to Alleppey. They captured they came to be the dominant, controlling the say, municipality. And I was still the MLA, but absolutely no problem with them. The program was not given up. I could still continue to work with the new municipality, which is led by a different political formation. And now again, CPM is back. And now they're trying to take it to a new level and so on. Now, how do you sustain this man? That this is very important. You have to link the sanitation to a larger vision of the city. That's very important. What do you mean larger vision of city? I told you this was a port town, major industrial town. Industries migrated, port died, it became a dumping place. Now we want to reinvent the city. How do you reinvent the city? You just make the city clean. You clean up the canals are cleaned up. And then what do you do? On both sides of the canal are the old factory buildings. You have the ghosts of the old port wharfs and so on. You conserve them in their heritage status, so that you have a now heritage city where tourists can come. Museums along the canal. About 500,000 tourists come to visit the lake which is nearby, Vembanad Lake system, but nobody comes to this town. If half that crowd comes to the town, then all these buildings that are lying now empty, useless, depleted, they can become souvenir homes, so they can become restaurants and so on and so forth. Because 5 lakh people come and stay in the city over the year, the city will be transformed. This is what I say, reinventing the city. So here is a picture of reinvented city, larger picture, where sanitation plays a very important role, and that creates resiliency. Otherwise, people may not be interested in, cleaning up the house, cleaning up my yard, and so on. But then this becomes part of a larger vision of transformation of the city. Then you feel enthused, much more enthused. So now, when I was there, now no more the MLA there. I've left Alleppey. I'm not from Alleppey. Also, my house is not in Alleppey. But I even now visit any local government in Kerala wants to need to come and help them in sanitation. I do. Not only in sanitation, any decentralized developmental initiative, and sanitation is still one of the important. I think within another 2 years, the pace at which is going, Kerala will be clean. I think we are moving towards that. In between, it was disrupted because some people had bright idea that we'll have gasifiers. You have big plants, all the waste in Kerala would be centralized in 5, 6 big waste to energy centers funded from outside and so on. So this got disrupted. Okay. Anyway, the big plant is coming, then waste your energy trying to clean up your house and so on in this decentralized manner. But now everybody knows these big things don't happen because people tell not in my backyard. Therefore, it has got to be in everybody's backyard. You have to take care of your own waste. I think that principle now is accepted. I think we are proceeding, and say another 200 years, it will be clean. That's my personal assessment of it. So let me conclude. The important thing is that how is the political action triggered the crisis? The crisis is the opportune moment for those who are interested in sanitation to intervene politically. There is a solution. It's not that there is no solution. Say that. 2, technology. Technology which can be handled by the people simply. Processing waste as far as possible at the source. That's it. Some cannot be done at the source. Okay, then it goes to the next higher level, but it is not centralized. It's a decentralized processing at the source, which is the third is the awareness of people. I think is that not the technology, is the awareness, consciousness, and innovative ways of doing that. Next one, 4, that sanitation workers develop self-respect. That's very important. And that is done only by upgrading their knowledge. They understand the science of what is being done. So they're much more confident and talk on equal terms with and political leadership will have to contribute a lot to this process. And then the political contestation. And that is not should be destructive, but constructive, for which I think we were fortunate to have People's Planning Campaign, which created that sufficient atmosphere. So now it's getting to be 5 to 5. I will stop here and take questions. If you want to ask other things, also no problem with me. Yeah. Yes, I think we'll stop here.
Thank you, Dr. Isaac. It was very.
Go ahead.
Thank you for the fascinating lecture, as well as giving us very clear the clarity of thought on how this political will is executed and implemented. I would just take one. I would just ask one question to you, and then maybe I'll pass it over to Professor Chari and then the participants. So my question to you is that you said the political will. I understand that when the sanitation is incorporated into a larger vision of the city, then the opposition is much less, as well as the people are willing to move forward with it. That's when things move up forward. The one question that I have is about the veto players themselves. Veto players, when I'm saying, is the opposition members, as well as sometimes, it's not just only the opposition party will have an opposition view about how the city should be moving forward, but also people from the same party can have a different opinion about how to move forward. So in Alappuza's case, I understand that, all the leadership and all the opposition parties have come together. But my understanding about its replication in Trivandrum had some kind of issues, because the major political party was, from a right-wing party, and there was some. I read quite a bit about some of the tussles that was happening in Trivandrum. So I would like to know about this opposition and bringing together the leadership in a different political context. So the participants who are in our course, who are coming from not from Kerala alone, but they are from across the country, as well as from across the South Asia region, where the fights between different political parties can be very huge. So in such kind of situations, I'm just wondering, like, how do we governance is a concept, sanitation governance is a concept, but how do we bring all these opposition groups together when you are having a very clear political divide?
There are two lines of action that is required. One is talking. Never get tired of it. There's no, in democracy, there's no way other than to communicate and interact. So you keep on at it. Whether they agree, not agree, but keep on at it. But it is not just persuading through talk, action. That's a second line. See, beautiful thing about decentralization, democratic decentralization, such as the version that is happened in Kerala, is that it has created a lot of democratic space at the local level. See, I am MLA of Alleppey. Then I'm now, there are other opposition MLAs in Trivandrum. But, still, I can work at the grassroots level. I can interact with the councillor. And then we start a program to make one ward totally clean. That's how we started in Trivandrum. Same technology, same technology as there, and so on. And since this dialogue was not proceeding very well, I decided, okay, I'll visit houses. So it is not my constituency and so on. I spent one full week, but a Holy Week, which is and totally nothing is done in Kerala. That's Easter and Good Friday and so on. Visited every house. By then I was former finance minister, and therefore people know me and so on, therefore I'm received. But then you talk, you tell them it's simple, why didn't you say, I go and visit. What do you do with your waste? You start a conversation like that. And see, I had one word, clean. People on Twitter, then that becomes a powerful talking point. So suppose you can work in one neighborhood, or you can work in one local government area, the democratic space. Otherwise, you can work only in state level. Now you can intervene at the policy level at any lower levels. Initially, the opposition parties are suspicious. Some people thought I had some back of my intention to shift from Malapi to the Trivandrum as my constituency, because they couldn't imagine why should this ex-minister spend his time visiting houses, trying to put sanitary kitchen bin and so on in the houses, sell the kitchen bin. So, see, after some time, then you become powerful. Your voice becomes powerful because you have done it in one place. That increases your space, your voice, you are heard, talked to. And the fact that you don't discriminate. I may be a CPM leader, I'm willing to work with even Congress councillor who is willing to work with me. Totally open. So after some time, they understand this is not something for ulterior political motive which is done. So it is very important that you intervene at the local level, some space, some neighborhood, demonstrate, then keep on talking. These two together taken can push it along. But it's true. For example, government decides to build a big plant in Trivandrum. Then everybody loses interest. Okay, anyway, that big thing is coming, then why take all this trouble and so big thing doesn't come because people don't allow, not in my backyard, that's all. So it has got to be in everybody's backyard. See, you can, the moment you link, see, with agriculture, urban agriculture, now that's the most deadly, fantastic, say, climate change action that is possible. You are composting, it does not create methane and so on. On the hand, it is carbon fixing process composting. Then the compost is used for plant and plant or vegetable cultivation, which is again sequestrating to a small level, but still it is there. So that cycle goes on. You use that, but then it goes back to nature. The cycle of nature is installed slowly. See, it all can be interesting. So you link it with urban agriculture. Then you start to have markets. Your little things can be brought there and sold. A kind of simple aggregation techniques, because you don't have the kind of marketing surplus and so on. But if you, from the last time you come to Trivandrum, you go in front of our party office, there is a church institution. They have permitted the corridor leading to that institution, people can bring all the vegetables and sell. See, there are ways of aggregating it through WhatsApp group and so on. If there's something more, you can go and collect it from there. It's all possible. See, this is what I say. Larger picture. Larger picture is required to create that kind of enthusiasm. This is because, it's very difficult to create political will in the city. Because urbanization is not by organic growth in the families residing in the thing. It is migration of families from outside to urban centers. Therefore, the kind of organic links and traditions and history and culture which characterize a village population is absent in the city. And that makes the intervention in the city difficult. It is very difficult to generate a community feeling, that we are one community. We are all typical flat living. You don't know who else is in the flat. Very rare for tenants to get together to have a community life in the flat system. So it will be much easier if you are in the village, but the city, it becomes challenges much more. One thing that happened in Trivandrum very good was in Alleppey also. See, we want to map all the canals and so on. Today, ActionAid is visiting a big team from a seminar in Alleppey to learn. See, we had to have experts. So we tied with IIT Mumbai. So they had the summer school here. Now, when the IIT students on summer school, we gave an open call for MTech postgraduate students or postgraduates of environment science and so on to come for. So about 100-150 students came. We had 3 summer schools where they mapped the old canal system in Alleppey, where were the blocks, everything, details. They did. They formed finally some of the state map. They formed an organization called Canalpi. Started with Can Alleppey. So now the name is Canalpi. Now it has become a startup. Canalpi has become a startup. Similarly, in Trivandrum, you started Green Army. Green Army is again students from various colleges getting together. But now that some of them have gone into small enterprises, startups. See, it is important to organize these things so that, some people get very interested in that, linking the science and education with what you are doing at the local level. See, everybody is not the same. People are so different. Therefore, you need different platforms for catering to the interest of different people. That's it. Participation cannot be just one agency you participate in that. People are different. So challenge is to create as many such platforms as possible. This is something that political people would not understand. Their idea would be much more, say, straight jacket, how it is done, how people are organized and so.
I understand. Thank you so much. I will now hand over the mic to Professor Chari and other participants and other team members, because I am sure they'll be having so many questions to ask. So over to you, Professor Chari.
So thank you very much, sir, for joining. I know you will be busy with a number of engagements. So thank you very much for speaking about how to develop political will. So a couple of points, it's more for invoking conversations with our participants. So been going through with us online course for the last 2 months. So when it comes to municipal solid waste management, it is something which we can see. The politicians see, the citizens will observe. And even if we don't attend to the solid waste for 1 or 2 days, there is a backlash, political backlash. So there is a political incentive to deal with the problem of municipal solid waste management. But there is a hidden component of sanitation which is often ignored, both by technical as well as the policy makers, which is buried under the ground many a times, is a septic tanks and human waste management. So we do have achieved open defecation free communities across the country, more or less. I won't say everything, but the human waste continues to stay partially degraded, and then it is evacuated by desludging trucks, and then again going back to into canals, or it can go into lands, So it's an institutionalized open defecation. In a different form, open defecation is happening. Instead of scattered, it is now condensed and then more intense open defecation across the country. I'm not speaking about Kerala in particular, or Kerala may be an exception. So having said that, how do I bring out the hidden problem of sanitation, which is often not seen on a day-to-day basis? How do we make it a public service delivery issue? Like municipal solid waste is under the act of any municipality, it's a municipal service delivery, but sanitation, there is still a confusion that it is a private affair. If I have a problem, I build my septic tanks. If I have a problem of desludging, I call a number and then somebody will come with mechanical or non-mechanical, without PPE, non-PPE, personal protective equipment. Then a lot of deaths happen because of that, in which you are aware of, particularly Tamil Nadu, Andhra, Telangana, Delhi, all over the country. So the challenge we are finding, and we seek your guidance, is how do we make this a political issue and how do we make it as a public service delivery? Any thoughts on that?
Now, Chari has touched upon a very embarrassing point. Embarrassing for me in Kerala, because that's one area we have failed totally. In fact, we have only in Trivandrum a kind of black water treatment, this sewage treatment plant, which caters to only about less than half the city. Nowhere else it is functional. In Kochi, it is only 10% or 15% is covered. And we have totally failed. As the finance minister, I announced in my budget that any panchayat or municipal town which builds a treatment plant would be given 5 crores of rupees for any project they want, road or anything. And then next year I increased to 10. Nobody has claimed it so far. That's why I said it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. Now, there are 2 options for you. One is to have a centralized plant, everything is piped there, which is very difficult in the case of Kerala with undulating terrain and also non-planned cities. Therefore, it would be more that you have plant, but then it is transported manually. You have a system which is organized under the municipality. Everybody who transports will have to. So that's what Trivandrum has done. They have to register, and through Uber system, anybody can phone up, and then one vehicle would come. They pay the fixed fee online or otherwise the municipality, and is transported. So you ensure this reaches that treatment plant. It's not dumped into some place. Now, this is possible in Trivandrum because they used to have a huge sewage wetland. In the old times, all municipal sewage would be into a big, about 200 acres of land, grass was growing. So we grow grass there. And on this natural cleaning takes place. So you had this land, and therefore, which was already on this, they have planted there and is functioning. In other places, they don't have, and people oppose. In Calicut, very recently, a plant place was found, and everything is agreed. All political parties agreed to it. But then there was a huge protest. Some of the kind of extremist organizations also joined. Then you had a situation that the political parties also lost the will. There was a competition among them to withdraw from pushing this, and finally it is stalled. Otherwise, it was looking, I'm involved in the sanitation program in Calicut Corporation. very closely there. I have spent a number of days there, etc. So this is the challenge. This is a big thing. So it is going to be now all public. I think only way is that you created the district farms. Every district has a agriculture farm, have that, and use that waste for manure. A thing which I find politically not accepted by, even when I was minister, I tried to sell this, but it was not accepted at that time. But I think there is no option for Kerala other than this.
Sure.
So, and follow the Trivandrum model. Also, public sector enterprises you have there. The sewages already exist in the medical colleges. That's mandatory. You enlarge them so that you can treat. Say that a determined effort will have to be made. So the model is that plant, you link all the these evacuators, firms and drivers of vehicles to this, and a Uber kind of online system by which centralized payment, and they are being paid from this place. So you ensure everything reaches. So this is the problem. Yeah. I agree with you. You touched a very sore point.
No,
and avoid speaking about it.
No, I mean, it's a work in progress anyway. So just going back to Alleppey, one question whenever we speak about Kerala and as a one of the leading practice, and we keep showcasing some of your experiences to the rest of the country, the first reaction to us was that, oh, it works in Kerala because Kerala is a different society. It's an educated society. The politicians are educated. The system is educated, but it cannot work in maybe Andhra, Telangana, or in north part of India. So they keep the political and as well as administrative machinery keeps referring to Kerala as an educated society. Hence, they can do it, an Alleppey model or any other experiment. So how do I react to such political discourse where it can work in Kerala because it's an exception, but it cannot be, our political system doesn't listen to some of these agenda items that we are discussing. So is there any advice to us how to convince politicians from the north or from other parts of Kerala or outside Kerala, outside India also?
Kerala's advantage is that it's a literate society. Therefore, communication is much easier. You can print and distribute. Okay, I think that's the biggest advantage of Kerala, being in Kerala. But when you are overeducated to an extent, in the sense everybody studied and so on, you also develop a skepticism that is very usual for educated people. So
that's available in plenty in Kerala, sir.
Yeah, that's so. This skepticism, particularly today, people, there's a kind of lack of trust also that is developing. So that is, I think, but nevertheless, I agree with you. The influence of caste is much lower, and the distribution is much more even. So these are advantages. But take our national movement. What was the Gandhian principles most seriously practiced? And Gandhian principles of mobilization is constructive. Okay, it's not just merely agitative, doing handicrafts, sanitation, all this. His field of experiment were in the North India. Person. You read L.C. Jain's Faridabad, City of Hope. Yeah, I gave recently L.C. Jain Memorial Lecture in Delhi. Therefore, I had gone through this book of this. See, I think in these places, if you create one village and then use it as a launch pad, I think that is it. See, anywhere. See, all villages may not have that the post potential because some leadership couldn't accept you. They don't want you, then you can't do anything. But there are many places you talk to people, they would have nothing against this. Only they don't know how to go about it. So select a town or village where there is a possibility of such intervention and transform it and then speak from that platform. That is the lesson of Alapi. I mean, I was not doing it for, let me be very clear, to make the Alapi town alone beautiful and so on. But for me, it was a means of communication. That's why we had CPM conferences around sanitation. Because without having done, then lacks conviction. So I think anywhere it is possible. Anywhere it is possible. And to me, because this skepticism of Kerala won't be there. You dispute everything. You don't take it for granted. So that debate, argumentative Indian applies very much for Kerala. Argumentative for everything. So you are taken much more on face value in Indian villages than in Kerala. So I don't think Kerala is an exception. No, I don't.
Thank you. So, friends, I think there is a very powerful lesson for all of us. And I think we've been practicing knowingly or unknowingly, or we need to practice, is success breeds success. And demonstrating a success, even if it is a ward level at a small scale, I think is what the advice Dr. Isaac is giving, that, it can dispel many misgivings, both political or otherwise. So I think that's a very powerful communication. And he made one more interesting point. LAP model is not, as a finance minister or as a senior politician, he need not focus on a single small town. It was a means of communication to him to scale up the agenda. I think that's a very powerful thing. So the pilots or demonstration is not just to improve in a particular geography, but as a means of communicating to the political system as well as administrative system for greater buy-in. I think that's a very powerful message that he has given to us. Sir, last point from my side before I open up. If I have an issue, a small issue, a public policy issue. So let me give you an example. Even in Trivandrum, let's say, the septic tanks have to be desludged. It means it has to be evacuated as per the regulation for it to function well. It is like a human body. We need to sort of exercise periodically. So likewise, the septic tanks, which are prevalent in part of Trivandrum and Calicut and other places, and rest of the country, 80% of urban India is on septic tanks. They have to be periodically evacuated once in 3 years. Now, this is a message. Now, this simple message often doesn't get executed. There is a policy, there is a regulation in all states, including outside in Nepal, in Bangladesh. This regulation is there. This regulation is there even in Kerala as part of the municipal acts and building approval systems. However, never gets executed because there's no political buy-in. Whenever I took this proposal to mayors, they said, it will unnecessarily create nuisance and people have to pay for it much more periodically. So how do I convince a politician? Is it through evidence? Is it through repeatedly saying it? Is it taking them to some other country or other place as a demonstration of good practice? So what is a mantra to convince not a seasoned senior politician, but at a municipal level, mayor or councillors who often find this, they're deeply connected with the local issues. Whereas state level politicians are somewhat, looking at a macro picture, looking at ease of doing business in the Kerala context or any other context. But the local politician often is grappling with day-to-day problems. So how do I communicate to a mayor or a city, councillor about it?
Simplest way would be to take them to their own well and do a test for bacteria. And I tell you, Kerala now, that has been the turning point. The entire groundwater system, because we have been using pit latrines,
Yeah.
majority,
Yeah.
and we have been very vigorously doing that. And so I remember when I was a student, that is some 40 years back, Professor Bazak was the director of CWIS. He came and with an elaborate model about different types of soil and how fast this would be spreading. And he had deadline how Kerala entire groundwater system will be polluted by some dates and stuff. But nobody took it seriously, even there in CDS, Center for Development Studies, where I was a student. But now it's a proven fact that most of the well water is not drinkable. So yeah, this is what is now making the biggest impact. That school labs do the water testing and proves that this is not drinkable water. So this problem has reached your doorstep, needs a solution. So I think that would be the best way to reach to local mayor and so on, and have some little kind of needn't be mathematical modeling, but something which says if this continues within this many years, there will be no drinking water possible from the groundwater. Everything would be polluted. So we have got to do it. And this is a very powerful argument to the people also. I think that would be the best route. In fact, have the students in the school collect water samples, have a temporary lab in the school, test it. No, the children go on talking here because water is polluted, this, that, and so on. So the message reaches the house also. So, so that is the, I think, would be a say.
So very interesting, very interesting. So friends, again, creating very simple evidence and demonstrating it at local level. And he has given example of school kids getting involved in sampling and testing, I think would be a very powerful means of communicating. So thank you very much, sir. So the floor is open for any questions, comments, your own personal experience of setbacks or positive experiences in engaging with political systems. Over to the participants. I mean, not everybody may have similar opportunities, but feel free. Over to you, Pratibha, to moderate. You're muted, please.
Anyone have questions?
Yeah, Sudhaji.
Yes, Sudhaji, please.
Thank you. So, sir, like you have mentioned about this children as a change agent for this whole revolution or evolution in this sanitation. So how long and what are the key strategies, whether it is the formal curriculum development or the engagement of children in the whole like campaign, or like other strategies that really triggered children as a change agent for this?
Now, this is generally accepted. Children not as for sanitation work, but as communicators. They are the effective communicators to take the message to the household. See, then how do you generate this awareness among children? They can be asked to do little projects about, for example, their household waste. There can be quizzes and so on, performing performances by children in the school, having a project to keep the school and surroundings clean. Okay, everybody gets, for example, the classroom. And then outside, it's all divided up. It is a project to keep the school clean, and all the children are involved in that. You can then you can have essay competition where they evaluate this project, their experiences. See, in a way, it becomes a co-curricular activity, not just extracurricular, a co-curricular activity, which is linked to the existing curriculum. Okay, by extending it, tweaking it a bit. I think that should be the way.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Sudha, where are you from?
I'm from Nepal, Kathmandu.
Ah, that's there.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions? Dr. Rajeshi, I would ask you to moderate the session because you know every participant's names and you're very much more familiar with the participants.
No. It's
Yeah,
not
please
like
take over.
I mean, I can, I could, I mean, it's like pulling over everybody now. This is the last session. I don't want to pull the legs anybody, but then, yeah, I'm sure participants will have a lot of questions, and I see a lot of, I mean, Vivek, you are there.
Yeah, I'm
Vivek.
here.
Yes,
Yeah,
Vivek.
I'm here, but I'm traveling,
Yeah.
so I have a hard time listening you all. I'm in a train. I'm just going to attend a conference. But I listen
Oh.
to all, but I won't be able to, I mean, I don't think
Oh,
my
okay.
voice is audible. I'm in a
Yeah,
train.
you are, but then, okay, fine. Take it. You go ahead.
Otherwise, if I'm loud enough, I have a question.
Please go ahead.
So the point I wanted to ask is that, in sanitation sector, something very important is to create demand from the people on the ground. So how can politicians or the political parties come ahead to create that demand? Because this is something we feel challenges about creating demands on the ground by people. If political parties can complement that, that would be a great achievement for us.
One usual way that has been done in places it has succeeded is that, okay, they kind of create a competitive atmosphere between the different wards. And see, you fix a date by which you have to achieve certain targets, and wards which receive the target will be featured by some very well-known dignitary in the public meeting and so on. So if you succeed in creating a political competitive atmosphere, say reaching the sanitation targets in various wards, then I think you have turned it. You have made it. Say it is in a way, in a creative way, making it a political issue, not in the negative way that you obstruct because you are in opposition, you obstruct it. So they see, therefore, wherever it has succeeded, you have got eminent citizens of the town and everybody, they become a spokesperson. You have a committee independent of the council itself, people's committee to undertake this program. So you'll have to create, say, if such people, including religious leaders, etc., take a positive position, that will force everybody to be involved. So that's the trick.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Isaac, for joining us. if our participants come up with any pertinent questions, we'll surely communicate with you and we'll get your feedback and your answers and clarifications on the questions. As for today, we would be concluding this session. Thank you again. Thank you for joining us and then giving us this extensive talk, and your storytelling was fantastic. I love that. I love the way your storytelling is something I would like to take from you today. Thank you so much again.